of Japanese ancestry who were imprisoned in American concentration camps in the United States, ordered by the President of the United States.
Some old memories, bad and good. Gee. Yeah. After President Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066 on February 19, 1942, a few weeks later, the Sheriff Department from Santa Clara County came and told us we had to move. So they gave us 2 weeks. 2 weeks in order to get rid of your belongings, and you could only carry what you can carry in your hand, and that's all, nothing else. We sold the land, got rid of our farming equipment. The cold air would come underneath the barracks, and the floor would get cold, not only the walls. So we used to put sheets on the floor to cut down the heat, but it didn't work. It was cold and terrible. Inside the barracks, when 6 of us had to share this room, but we had no privacy. So my mother and father, I put the sheets up, and all of us kids, we slept in terrible folding cots with a small mattress in there. That's where we slept. And some of the barracks not only were built from the ground, but some of them were built high enough that they had hollow spaces underneath. And when the winter cold comes in underneath, the floor, where they had passage of air, boy, the floor would get cold. And yeah, you got cold in the walls, cold in the windows, floor. You'll be able to walk and see the actual site. It's all right to participate in discussions, oral, and so forth. You learn something, but it's more exciting when you actually get to the campsite and see where we lived. So we're kind of looking forward to the hike, the tour, and the campsites, and I can point out, where I used to live and who was there.
It's sometimes tough to see him talk about his parents and stuff like that because he'll tear up and it's kind of hard for the family to watch. But I think it's really important to, remember this kind of thing and not keep it all to yourself and to share it with other people.
Seeing him have all of that love for this country and then also come here and ask questions that he didn't even know when he was here. It's really great to see him learn and also talk about how he felt behind all of the things that happened.
And I remember a few weeks after the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, kids in my class started razzing me and calling me names. When they started chasing me home from school and calling me dirty Japs, I cried, my sister cried, told them, we don't want to go to school, they're mean, they call us dirty Japs, throwing rocks at us. I was glad to leave school and not have to go there.
The problem began way back before I was born, before my father was born, back in the 1800s. And this is when the hatred against Asians started, and we saw these kinds of evidences of hatred. With this fellow here, an Asian, with a bloodied knife in his mouth and a smoking gun and standing on top of this woman that he just killed. That image went across. And that started a string of other similar political cartoons indicating the media effect on biasing the people in this country against Asians. There was a James Phelan who used to be the mayor of San Francisco, and he ran for Senate, and he ran for the second time I found this poster. It's kind of ridiculous. He says, "Keep California white," which is, that was his campaign promise. Well, he failed, and he failed miserably. After Pearl Harbor, things got difficult for Japanese people in this country. We saw these kinds of political cartoons getting the idea planted in the people's mind that this is a very desirable thing to not have Japanese among the people in California. We had a hospital. The problem is it was named a hospital, and there was nothing more than barracks. They didn't have enough skilled medical help. And as a result, my father had glaucoma, and he went blind in camp. The other problem we had in camp was my grandfather. He died. And it was a sad situation because physically he looked like me going into camp. He was pretty healthy. And he developed colon cancer when he was in the camp. And I remember because, within a couple of months, he was down to skin and bones. He looked awful. I've spoken to over 50,000 people. Once in a while, I'll hear an opinion that it was okay. There are certain times in our lifetime where it's okay to imprison people, and I say absolutely not. It's never okay to imprison people under these conditions. Maybe it could have been German families. It could have been Italian families at one time. Today it might be Middle Eastern families or Muslim Americans. This might be your child wondering, where's this guard taking me? And this might be your son trying to climb out of a camp, like here at Heart Mountain, not knowing there's a guard with a weapon pointing straight at him. So I say to all these people who have any doubts at all, this should never happen again to anyone. Never again. Well, basically, it's all wood and using wood studs and sidings were plywood.
More than 40 years ago, shortly after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, 120,000 persons of Japanese ancestry living in the United States were forcibly removed from their homes and placed in makeshift internment camps. This action was taken without trial, without jury. It was based solely on race, for these 120,000 were Americans of Japanese descent. Yes, the nation was then at war, struggling for its survival, and it's not for us today to pass judgment upon those who may have made mistakes while engaged in that great struggle. Yet we must recognize that the internment of Japanese Americans was just that, a mistake.
No government is perfect. No country is perfect. I think the United States, of America is still the best country in the world.
I think it's important for us to accept what we had done and admit our mistakes and take that and move forward so we don't make those same mistakes again.
It must be hard to see all of this and remember all
After we get home, I'll forget all about it. Yeah, I don't want to cry over it again.
Okay.
Go ahead.